And welcome to Chentex Multimedia live presentations, once again streaming live to your device all the way from Brisbane, Australia. And it's good to have your company. It's first official day back at work for many, and of course with that we'd like to welcome Dilraj back again with the weather update for today.
Good morning everyone. Weather forecast for the rest of today is maximum 30 degree. Brisbane area is partly cloudy with medium chance of showers in the morning and again later in the afternoon. Light winds becoming northeasterly 15 to 20 km per hour in the middle of the day and then becoming light in the evening. Fire danger is low to moderate. Sun protection is recommended till 10 past 4 and UV index is predicted to reach 14, that is extreme. Let's now listen to the weather warning update.
G'day everyone, my name is Matt Marshall and I'm a meteorologist with the Weather Bureau, and this is an audio news release on Sunday the 3rd of January. The headline is tropical low and potential cyclone development in the Gulf of Carpentaria to bring strong winds and heavy rainfall in the north. And here are my talking points. So, a tropical low is formed in the Gulf of Carpentaria and is likely to develop into a Category 1 tropical cyclone later today or this evening. A tropical cyclone warning has been issued for gale force winds, abnormally high tides and large waves, and heavy rainfall leading to flash flooding in areas stretching from Mornington Island to Pumparol. The system will move slowly towards the east-southeast and stall over the Cape York Peninsula. A severe weather warning has been issued for heavy rainfall leading to flash flooding over the next few days, also about the North Tropical Coast from Cooktown to Ingham, as well as inland parts of the Cape York Peninsula. Isolated falls of a few hundred millimetres are possible on each day in coastal areas. Heavy rainfall is also likely to lead to flooding in the flood watch area, which is the Gulf and North Tropical Coast, into the coming week. Also today, severe thunderstorms with heavy rainfall are possible more broadly about the north of the state, and severe thunderstorms with heavy rainfall and damaging winds about the southeastern interior of the state. Thunderstorm potential will return to southeast Queensland this Tuesday and Wednesday as the surface trough and associated upper trough move into the area from the southwest. So, for the tropical weather up north, broadly speaking, the main hazards we're going to experience later today and into tomorrow will be western areas of the peninsula and around the Gulf of Carpentaria. The main hazards we're looking at are heavy rainfall leading to flash flooding, gale force.
Check 1, 2. So ladies and gentlemen, sorry about that bit of a hiccup. We lost the audio there for a little while, but now we are back on track. Well, of course, it's first day back at work, and there's so much to report on, and that weather warning, so please keep updated with that weather warning, because there is a lot that's going to be happening, some flooding in some of the areas as well. So we'll keep you up to date. Please log on to the BOM website, or check on our website from time to time as well. Right now it's time for the headlines for today.
People have been told to self-isolate as health authorities try to get on top of what they say is a concerning amount of COVID-19 transmission at a Western Sydney bottle shop. As 5 more confirmed coronavirus cases were linked to the cluster in Berala, officials have issued a new health alert for anyone who visited the BWS near the local train station over the 11 days in December. The warning comes as residents of Greater Sydney face fines if they are caught not wearing a mask inside public spaces. Victorian health authorities have urged people to be patient after testing sites in Melbourne were overwhelmed at the weekend. Many waited hours in line, and the government says it's adding extra capacity to manage demand. There are now 21 cases linked to a cluster at a Bayside restaurant. Queensland Health has ramped up the state's coronavirus testing capacity after long weekend wait times in Brisbane and the Gold Coast. Hours are being increased at the state's 76 clinics following a test and isolate directive issued to anyone who's been in Victoria since December the 21st. Properties have been evacuated and major roads closed in Perth's southern suburbs and the city's southeast, where several bushfires have burnt through the night. An emergency warning remains in place for Kwinana Beach and several suburbs between Rockingham and the Kwinana Freeway. Health warnings have also been issued for a fire burning in the Kwinana rubbish tip.
And these were the headlines for this morning. Well, right now, let's get an update from Queensland Government and see what's happening right here in Queensland.
The last week and the last month, the last 24 hours, indeed the last week and the last months to get themselves tested. That is the most important thing we can all do to protect ourselves, our families, our communities. If we have any symptoms at all, please just get tested and isolate till you get a result. And I'm also asking that anyone who's been in Victoria from 21 December onwards to come forward and get tested, whether or not they've got symptoms, and isolate themselves till they've got a result. Just so we can catch that very, very first case. It's so important because we've now gone 110 days in Queensland without any community-acquired case in Queensland, and we've gone 17 days since we've had someone who was infectious in the Queensland community, and that person was the person who came up from New South Wales and were fantastic in how they managed themselves, and clearly we've not had any ongoing spread that we're aware of, so that's really good. So it is just important that people keep on testing. So some figures for today: we've had no new cases in Queensland in the last 24 hours, which is excellent, but we are continuing to see positive cases, not today, but in the last few days in our quarantine hotels, and they're very important in terms of keeping the virus out of the community in Queensland, which means we've now got 13 active cases in Queensland, 7 of them in the Gold Coast, 5 in Brisbane and 1 in the Sunshine Coast, and we now have 1,255 people who have acquired this infection in Queensland since it started. Today is 1 year to the day when I was first told about a potential new virus circulating in China. So yesterday we did 2,742 tests in Queensland, and over the last 7 days we've done 15,341, which is just a marvellous effort. We had 76 fever clinics open across Queensland yesterday, with 18 in the southeast corner of the state. We are opening more fever clinics and we're extending hours because of that rapid response from people coming forward to get tested after hearing that information that I'd like people who've been in Victoria to come forward and get tested. So that is excellent. I would ask people, please go online. We've got a website that's continually updated with information about testing clinics across the state. It's interactive, so people can find their nearest clinic and they can find alternatives. So if one clinic is particularly busy, look at where else you can go in your area. And I do thank people for waiting for quite a while in some cases to get tested. So the other place people can go, of course, if they can't manage that website, is they can ring 13 Health and get information about their closest testing clinics. Now, we do have those restrictions currently in place for Greater Sydney, and we'll be reviewing them in the next week or so, depending how things go. Things are starting to settle there, which is really good news. So today they had another number of cases, but all were linked to their known outbreaks. And they haven't had any extension of infection outside that Greater Sydney area. So at the moment...
So we leave that news there, and as Dr. Jeanette Young mentioned, that it was to this day 1 year ago when she was first informed about a pandemic or a virus coming out of China. So, 1 year ago is when she was first informed. Well, right now, the other news that people have been following is the India and Australia cricket to say. So, India have expressed their reluctance to travel to Brisbane for the 4th test if further restrictions are imposed on the movement. Queensland has shut its border to New South Wales. The Indian team fears that their movement will completely be curtailed after reaching Brisbane when the final match of the 4th test series is scheduled to be starting on January 15th. The 3rd test is to be played at the Sydney Cricket Ground from January 7th, and India are keen to play the final test at the same venue instead of travelling to Brisbane. The development comes on the backdrop of 5 Indian players, including Vice-Captain Rohit Sharma, being placed in isolation after a video emerged of them having a feast at a restaurant in Melbourne on New Year's Eve. Rohit, along with Rishabh Pant, Subhag Gill, and Navdeep Saini, Prithvi Shaw have all been separated from both India and Australia squads. They will, however, be allowed to train in accordance to the strict protocols that have been put in place by the Cricket Australia. The Board of Control for Cricket in India, BCCI, and Cricket Australia have also launched a joint investigation in a possible breach of biosecurity protocols on Sunday. Australia's batsman Matthew Wade spoke about there being potentially harder quarantine on biosecurity bubble in Brisbane than we have here, Wade said. Australia are keen to stick to the schedule and fully expect to play the 4th test at the Gabba. No one knows the final details about this yet. There will be put stricter protocol in Brisbane than here. We prefer not to sacrifice the test at Brisbane. The schedule has been rolled out. There was some speculation in staying in Melbourne as well, but we stuck to it and we finally expect to travel to Brisbane to play the 4th test, Wade said in a virtual media briefing, and he has been listening to the match and the house. So, they were up to date on the news, and we'll see how it goes with the test, whether it comes here to Brisbane or not. And there's been a lot of speculation on that, lots of talks, because Queensland and Brisbane does take a hard line, but as Dr. Jeanette Young has said, that their test series can go on if all the protocols are put in place and if they are all observed. So that's the latest for this morning. Right now, moving on, let's hear from our Prime Minister. So that inquiry is still ongoing, and as the Prime Minister said, that the special investigation team will be in place for as long as is required to complete this investigation. Well, right now moving on to New South Wales, and the New South Wales Premier is going to put on some stricter restrictions.
Thank you to the patients for the people in the Northern Beaches communities. For those in the southern zone, from midnight tonight, you are officially part of Greater Sydney. So thank you for respecting the stay-at-home provisions. But for all of you who live in the southern zone of the Northern Beaches community, including Minister Hazzard, you will now be treated as part of Greater Sydney. So thank you again, and please know that whatever we announce for Greater Sydney is now you are now subject of. You do not have to comply with the stay-at-home provisions you were subject to until this point in time. Thankfully, according to the health advice, the risk of transmission in that part of the Northern Beaches has dissipated, and in fact, as I foreshadowed yesterday and the day before, there is a greater risk at this stage of community transmission in parts of Western Sydney, which we are obviously trying to get on top of, than there are in that southern section of the Northern Beaches. Dr. Chant will provide some further statistical information on what's happening in the northern part of the Northern Beaches, and for that reason the stay-at-home provisions will be staying at this stage until the 9th of January, but I can say with some level of confidence that that is pretty much the worst case scenario. So following the 9th of January, we anticipate people living in the northern part of the Northern Beaches will also then become part of Greater Sydney. And again, in particular, we want to thank that community for your patience, in particular businesses who we know are doing it tough.
course, lots of businesses doing it tough, and as he mentioned, that the Northern Beaches now becomes part of Greater Sydney. But of course, with all the restrictions and everything, masks must be made compulsory as the Premier says.
Strategy is to make sure that people can go about their daily business with as little impact as possible. However, there are certain settings we're putting in place which will be effective from midnight tonight. The first one, which we've been talking about for a long time, is strengthening what we're doing in relation to wearing of masks. So masks from midnight tonight will now be compulsory in certain indoor settings, and we want to be very clear about this. We'll be making sure that compliance or enforcement occurs from Monday. So we won't fine you until Monday. The fine will be $200 for not wearing the mask in these settings. But if you're going shopping or in shopping centres, you have to wear a mask. If you're catching public transport, you have to wear a mask. If you're attending an indoor entertainment venue like a cinema, you have to wear a mask. Places of worship, hair and beauty salons, in gaming areas of establishments, and staff at hospitality venues. Now, none of this will be a surprise. We'd already strongly recommended mask wearing in these settings, but what we want to do is to make sure we're not in a situation where we're restricting people's ability to go about their business. In fact, we want to increase economic activity, not diminish economic activity, and mask wearing in these settings will ensure we have the confidence to do that. Also, when we're hosting major events, or when we're undertaking other activity, or when people are going to work, having masks on public transport will reduce the risk of allowing people to go about their business. And this is why this is a good time to do that. We've learned during the pandemic that we had to actually make stricter restrictions earlier on in the pandemic. We don't want to ever go back to that situation. We want people in New South Wales to be able to go about their business as much as possible, but we also need to reduce or mitigate the risk in certain settings where we know there's challenges, and that's why these indoor settings will now require mask wearing from midnight tomorrow. However, we won't enforce that until Monday to give everybody time, but it wouldn't be a surprise to anybody. We've been talking about this, Dr Chan and I and Minister Hazzard have been talking about this for months and months, but the strategy, because many people will say why now, and the reason why it's happening now is because we want to make sure and give confidence to business and to people who are holding down jobs that you can continue about your activity in New South Wales so long as you wear a mask in those indoor settings where there is a higher risk of transmission. In addition to that, we're reducing gym classes back down to 30. Currently it's at 50. I don't think there's any surprises there. No nightclubs, no surprises. You can't dance or sing at this current time. Weddings, funerals and places of worship, we are reducing to 100 at this point in time. And of course subject to the 4 square metre rule. So if there's a venue that's smaller, it'll be less than 100. So we are capping weddings, funerals and places of worship back to 100. And again, we want to prevent any super spreading events which will put New South Wales backwards. Outdoor performances and outdoor activity, which is less controlled, we're reducing to 500, down from 1,000. And in terms of controlled outdoor events, we're reducing that from 5,000 down to 2,000 again to mitigate the risk of any super spreading events.
So those are the measures being put in place once again, and as we know that the rules keep changing as the circumstances change. So if you are planning anything, please make sure that you get the information, the current up-to-date information before you make that decision. Well, right now, a message from one of our sponsors.
GlobeNet Realty. GlobeNet Realty has been the longest established, trusted and respected agency in its trade area. Washa Chandra, Director of GlobeNet Realty, provides honest and ethical service to her customers. If you are thinking of investing in Brisbane real estate market, or if you are seeking professional property management, then you should contact Usha Chandra today on landline 3865 4466 or mobile 0419 775 416. And for further updates, log on to our website www.globenetrealty.com.au. GlobeNet Realty is your own local real estate agency. Situated at Shop 52281 Sandgate Road, Boondall. GlobeNet Realty. Real estate is our world.
GlobeNet Realty and real estate is the world, and don't forget that we will be resuming the real estate update, the weekly update on the current market trends, what's happening within the finance industry, and of course the investment-wise. What we have seen that even during the pandemic, the real estate section has held strong, and being a strong market, what happens is there is always a significant reduced number of listings on the market as whatever is on the market gets taken up. When all those updates will be resuming from very soon with GlobeNet Realty. Well, right now let's go back to New South Wales, where that link with that BWS in Berala and all the associated links with that cluster.
Anyone who attended the BWS Berala on Woodburn Road between Tuesday the 22nd of December and Thursday the 31st of December for any amount of time during the times I'm going to read out is considered a close contact. Must get tested immediately, self-isolate, remain in isolation for 14 days since you were last there, regardless if you receive a negative test. We have identified more than 2,000 people have been contacted and told to get tested and isolate in relation to the BWS store, and New South Wales is also reviewing the CCTV footage in an effort to understand how the transmission events occurred.
And of course, that is the update from Berala. And now what's happening is that many of the borders are being now closed once again. So, with that, so many people who want to get into Victoria have all been applying for the exemption, and there has been a long, long queue for that.
1,500 people who've applied for an exemption. Anybody, any Victorian, anybody in fact who finds himself in New South Wales who believes they have an important reason to get back to Victoria is invited to apply for an exemption. That does not mean you'll be granted an exemption. We will only be granting exemptions to those who've got a genuine medical, emergency, family, hardship reason to get back in. And there will be conditions applied to those individuals in terms of how they then need to test and isolate during their stay here, or whether they need to go into mandatory hotel quarantine. That is what the exemption process is for. And absolutely, look, I sympathise with people who have found themselves possibly locked down in the Northern Beaches as part of the New South Wales lockdown, possibly who would have left Sydney and have been in rural New South Wales. But we have to take a view about what's right for the wider Victorian community. And as the acting Premier has said, 60,000 people managed to get back under severe hardship with a lot of inconvenience in that time. We will always be very, very keen to hear from people who feel they have an important reason to be back here. But that is what the process is for, and it'll be done on public health grounds.
And of course, it is very, very important to get all those testings done and get them in place and get them in very quickly. But right now, Victoria cases are said to be linked to New South Wales.
We now have the 10 additional cases in the Mento Mitcham cluster. They are very much centred around the Black Rock Cafe that we've been talking about over the last few days. That brings to a total of 18 connected cases associated with that particular cafe, spreading out across a significant geography. That includes now a positive case in Leongatha. Of course, it also includes positive cases who, although they are now back in Melbourne, did travel to Lakes Entrance and New South Wales during their infectious period. As a result of that, we have a number of additional exposure sites that have been identified on the DHS website. I would urge everybody to go and check and keep a close eye on those exposure sites. It is imperative that anybody who has been to those exposure sites during the dates identified on our website, that they do go and get tested today, and I'll come back to that in a moment. Exposure sites in particular now around Lakes Entrance.
So this closes. So the closures and the tighter restrictions are not only here, it's right across the globe as well. And he's Boris Johnson announcing the tougher measures that might need to be taken in England.
What we're doing clearly is grappling with a new variant of the virus, which is surging particularly in London and the southeast, and that's why we've had to take exceptional measures for some parts to close primary schools, keep primary schools closed temporarily. It may be that we need to do things in the next few weeks that will be tougher in many parts of the country. I'm fully reconciled to that.
So, as they mentioned, that they are putting on those tougher measures and getting ready in place. Well, ladies and gentlemen, one of the news that we have from our station here is that, over the break, we launched Music Junction Live, which is a platform where we bring together many local artists and talents and showcase their talent from these studios right here. And that segment is called Music Junction Live. And we have had two very successful, renditions of that, the fest of Chandan Dazi and Manju Verma. So here's a glimpse of what went to air last night.
बहुत ठीक किया क्या कहने की ऐसे है कि तालीम वगैरह कुछ नहीं आपको आवाज में सुरीलीपन आना चाहिए उसके लिए आपको तालीम बहुत जरूरी है
तालीम का बहुत ही ज़रूरी है। कहते हैं गुरु बिन मुक्ति ना होई, तो एक गुरु जी का होना जिंदगी में बहुत ही ज़रूरी है और उसी को लेकर आप आज यहाँ तक पहुँचे हुए हैं। तो चलिए कार्यक्रम को आगे लेकर चलते हुए, क्योंकि कुछ लोगों का कमेंट का बहुत सारे लोग जुड़ रहे हैं हमारे साथ में, और आप सभी को जुड़ने के लिए बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। आप दूसरे लोगों को भी आगे लिंक जो है उसे शेयर करिए, और ताकि ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा लोग जो है इस रंगीन शाम का और चंदन जी के साथ में रूबरू होने के लिए आज आप सभी को मौका मिला है। इसी के साथ तो चलते हुए आगे, अब इस बार कौन सा गीत चुना आपने?
पहले सबको नया साल का मुबारक एंड बहुत बधाई, शुभकामना। नेक्स्ट जो सॉन्ग मैंने आपको सुनाना जा रहा हूँ वो मेरे दिल के चैन,
ओ मेरे दिल के चैन। और बहुत ही अच्छा एक नंबर ये भी है, किशोर जी का नंबर है, मेरे जीवन साथी 1972 में जो बना गया था। आर.डी. बर्मन का तो संगीत,
आर.डी. बर्मन
जी हाँ, और राजेश खन्ना और तनुजा पर पिक्चराइज किया गया। मजरू सुल्तानपुरी का संगीत बहुत ही अच्छा। तो ओ मेरे दिल के चैन अब हम आपके समझ में लेकर आ रहे हैं, और याद रखिए आज का ये कार्यक्रम जो है ये हम आप तक पहुंचा रहे हैं ऑस्ट्रेलियन इंडियन रेडियो और ब्रिस्बेन इंडियन टाइम्स के द्वारा, और हमारे जो चेंटेक्स मल्टीमीडिया का लाइव स्ट्रीमिंग यहाँ पर ब्रिस्बेन के स्टूडियो से। तो आप कहीं से भी जुड़े तो आपका ये लाइव स्ट्रीम जो है हमारे ब्रिस्बेन के स्टूडियो से डायरेक्टली आपका डिवाइस तक पहुँच रहा है। और एक बार फिर कार्यक्रम को आगे लेकर चलते हुए अब हम सुनने जा रहे हैं ओ मेरे दिल के चैन।
दिल के चैन, ओ मेरे दिल के चैन, चैन आए मेरे दिल को दुआ कीजिए, ओ मेरे दिल के चैन, चैन आए मेरे दिल को दुआ कीजिए। अपना ही साया देख के तुम जाने जहां शर्मा गए, अभी तो ये पहली मंजिल है, तुम तो अभी से घबरा गए, मेरा यार होगा सोचो तो जरा, हाय ऐसे न आहे भरा कीजिए, ओ मेरे दिल के चैन, चैन आए मेरे दिल को दुआ कीजिए। कर्म आपका नाम मेरा तेरा.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's been a glimpse of what's been presented through Music Junction Live. So, keep tuned in to get notification of the next the episode that will be coming up. And thank you very much for all that wonderful comments that have been coming in about the... Well, ladies and gentlemen, now it's time to just look at some of the functions and events happening right here in Brisbane. So, ladies and gentlemen, once again, it's wonderful to have your company. It's always so good to see you. And right now, it's time for me to say goodbye. And don't forget that the newspaper will be coming out next week. So, if you have any editorials or ads, please do contact our office ASAP, as we are back in office from today. And we have been running on a very skeleton staff over the break and managed to keep few things running. It's been wonderful to get all your support and help during those times. Well, until next time, is goodbye from me. Stay safe and be good.